N-Track Sampler has been rebuilt from the ground up into a fully customizable sampler, bringing the capability to play with your sounds in N-Track Studio 10 in an intuitive and creative way. There are 4 sampler variations, and each is tailored to a specific method of using samples to build instruments. In this video, we're going to explore how to use the melodic, drum, slicer, and multi-layer samplers to shape your sound and compose your own melodies, beats, and textures. The new sampler types can be selected in the instrument browser under My Instruments and then Create New Instruments. Let's select Melodic Sampler. We can now drag samples or one-shots from the loop browser into the sampler and start playing. Let's try with an example. Drag another sample into the Melodic Sampler to update the sound. The sampler will automatically recognize if a loop has root note information and will use it to pitch the sample correctly. If the sample has no root information, or if we want to transpose the sample, we can set the root note with this control.
Heights. Heights.
We can change the range of notes that the sample will cover by dragging the yellow range control on top of the keyboard. When you drag a sound, the default range is 2 octaves, but you can quickly extend it. The Rec button lets us quickly record our own samples. It's surprising how easy it is to record something that can work as a playable instrument. We can use the fade controls at the beginning and end of the sample to soften the attack and release of the sample. Well, we can also edit the proper ADSR envelope that controls how the sample volume is modulated as a note is pressed, held, and then released. You can use the pitch knob to alter the pitch. Use the reverse command to invert the playback direction of the sample to create interesting effects. The sampler view has 3 pages. We enter the edit page with the pencil icon. The keyboard icon takes us to play mode, where we can add more N-Track or third-party effects, and add the arpeggiator. The sliders icon shows the parameters page to get into the nitty-gritty of the sampler. Press the XY button to view all the available parameter pages. On mobile, instead of clicking on the page icons, we can simply swipe to scroll between the play, edit, and parameters pages. One interesting setting is the legato. Here's how the legato glide option sounds. Selecting Drum Sampler from My Instruments, we can drop sounds into pads and build custom drum kits. We can toggle between the pad and keyboard views using the pad icon located above the sampler keyboard. One interesting feature of the drum sampler is the mute group. Sometimes you want a sample to stop another sample from playing. A classic example is the closed and open hi-hat. The open hi-hat usually has a long ringing sound, and when the drummer releases the pedal, the hi-hat stops ringing. You can accomplish this by assigning the closed and open hi-hat to the same mute group. When a sample in, say, mute group 1 starts playing, it will stop any other sample belonging to the same mute group. And if you prefer to play drums on the screen, you can switch to the full screen drums view. Slicer is great for taking a long sample and slicing it into a playable sampled instrument. We can choose how we want to slice the sample to the keys by selecting the slicer drop-down. Using the slice by grid setting, we can choose a subdivision and a tempo. We can also slice by transient and control detection sensitivity and adjust the style. From percussive to melodic. After the slicer has performed the automatic slicing, you can always manually adjust the individual sliced regions and also add and remove regions. With the Multilayer Sampler, you can add multiple samples, layers, on a single note. We can then edit these layers individually to create more dynamic and complex instruments.
That's not right.
The Multilayer Sampler is included in the extended and suite editions of N-Track Studio. You can turn or upgrade a track using any of the other sampler types into a multi-layer sampler track by selecting the Multilayer Sampler in the instrument browser. Note that this doesn't work the other way around. If you have a track that already has the Multilayer Sampler and choose, for example, the Melodic Sampler, you'll get an empty Melodic Sampler. So you can always start building your instrument from one of the more intuitive and easy samplers, let's say, and then upgrade to the Multilayer Sampler when you want to get more options and freedom to build your instrument. Let's import a sample and enable the new layer icon so that when we drop a second sample onto the selected note, the sample will be added to the note without replacing the existing sample. We can scroll between the layers using the drop-down menu and listen to a layer individually by activating the S solo button and playing the associated note. You can tune each layer by assigning the root key, or for quick adjustments, using the pitch knob. Importing a sampler with the new layer icon deselected will replace all of the layers in the Multilayer Sampler. If we happen to do this by mistake, we can always undo and return to the previous state. Sometimes you may want to have a note always play multiple samples, while sometimes you may want to have a sample play when you press the note in a soft way, i.e. with a low velocity, and trigger another sample when the note is pressed hard with a higher velocity. You can accomplish this by having 2 or more layers in the same note with velocity ranges that don't overlap. So let's set one layer to have the range 0 to 50% and another from 51 to 100%. Now let's play the key and hear what happens. Note that on the screen keyboard you can simulate the strength or velocity of hitting a key by tapping on the upper or lower part of the key. Tapping on the upper part of the key simulates a soft or low velocity, while lower down on the key simulates hard or a higher velocity. We can duplicate a layer with the clone sample icon. Once pressed, we can see a duplicate added to the multi-layer dropdown. When a sample is duplicated, you can change its settings independently from the original layer.
That's not right.
We can delete a sampler layer using the trash icon.
That's not right.
Select the loop mode icon to adjust the current sample loop mode. One shot is the default setting and plays the full waveform to completion. With the loop mode selected, we can select loop points that we want to assign to the sample. The sample cycles between the loop points until the key is released. If we can hear a click or unwanted noise between the loop points, we can adjust the fade to smooth the sound. We can get somewhat creative with the crossfade to get interesting results. Loop until release works similarly to the loop mode, with the difference being that when the key is released, the sample stops looping and continues to play beyond the loop endpoint towards the end of the sample. This menu sets the resampling algorithm used to change the pitch of a sample to match the key that is pressed on the keyboard. Let's review the options. When speed follows pitch is selected, the speed of the sample increases or decreases together with the pitch. This makes higher pitch sounds play shorter than lower pitch ones. It works very well for solo instruments, but may not be appropriate when you want to play chords, because the various keys of the low and high pitches will have different speeds and may sound out of phase. Maintain original speed is the default setting and keeps the sample length consistent across the assigned key range. Preserve transients also maintains the sample speed regardless of the pitch. It may often sound better than maintain original speed, but setting up the sample after dragging may take some more time as the sampler processes the various pitches in the range. Preserve formants is similar to preserve transients, but also keeps the characteristic frequency components of the sample, keeping an instrument or vocal sample sounding as if it was produced by the same instrument but at a different pitch, as opposed to sounding like it was played by a different instrument or singer. This mode avoids the classic chipmunk effect, for example, when pitching vocal samples higher. When we're happy with a custom instrument, we can save it as a preset using the Save icon in the upper toolbar. The instrument can be easily recalled from the instrument browser under My Instruments. We can toggle between the sampler and the Pianoroll using these buttons. In version 10, we can now edit the existing sound, record a new sound, or import our own custom sound in different views. The Edit menu lets us record, import, or edit sounds in the Pianoroll, the step sequencer, screen drums, and the pad view. Watch our separate tutorial on this for more detail. We hope you enjoy exploring all the new sampler instruments in N-Track Studio 10. Do watch out for more in-depth tutorials on the new features in version 10, and in the meantime, have fun making music with N-Track. See you on the next one.